my new video, I have my microphone with a sock on it as a pop filter, set up kind of weirdly at this moment, because my laptop is here, and I need my laptop, so I couldn't really put the microphone in front of my face. Before you think this is alcohol, it's not, even though it is served in a whiskey glass, but it's actually just some Coke with ice because it's really hot, and I wanted Coke with ice. So yeah. But anyways, by the way, I'm growing out my nails again, so I can tap on things again. And I'm so happy about it. I have two laptops set up in front of me. I excuse my laptop, the one that is making like this fan sound. It's just really old, so I'm sorry for any background noise. But now that is all out of the way, I hope you guys are doing amazing as always, and welcome to this video. So as you could probably see by the title of this video, I'm going to be studying, kind of like reading stuff, because like my classes start again in about literally 2 days. I have to do a lot of stuff before they start, which means that I have a lot of reading to do. And a fun fact about me, when I am reading things, I actually like to read them out loud as if I'm actually like presenting it to someone, because my attention span is just so short. It's ridiculous. And when I'm like saying the words and acting as if someone is in front of me listening to me, it just really helps like remember what I'm reading, you know, like it helps me remember what I'm reading, because otherwise I could just read a text for about 50 times and then I still wouldn't know what it says. I don't know if anyone else, like, you know, gets this problem, but like, I don't know, I do, so I thought it would make a good ASMR video. This is gonna be a partial, like, study with me, fabric sounds, study with me video, but it's mostly just like whispering, reading, I guess. Yeah, so that, and I might do some typing, even though you probably can't really hear that because like the microphone is pointed this way, but it's fine. But yeah, I'm just gonna start reading again because I already read like 20 pages today, which does not sound like many pages, but for someone with my attention span, that is a lot of pages. So I'm just gonna see where I left off. Let me see. Yeah, okay, this is where I left off. You don't really need to know what the text is about. I hope this is just kind of relaxing on its own. By the way, I'm sorry if I look like trash. It looks like I literally just crawled out of bed. I might be tapping on things like along the way. I don't know. Doing some triggers. But mostly focusing on what I'm reading. Because it's important. I have to know this. Okay. Creative Reading 3. Connective Thinking and the Search for a Shared Horizon. The simplest form of interpretation links one part of the text to other parts, linking the Dawn passage, for example, to Bob Dylan's lyrics. But what about connections to other texts? These connections are especially important because no one's world is entirely defined by the perspective or horizon of any single text alone. Indeed, there is far more to creativity than Letham's essay can fully express. However complex and many-layered it might be, because no one lives in a one-text world. The truths we learn from the ecstasy of influence cannot be confined to the pages of that essay. As soon as we read something in another class, or we engage in conversations with our friends and family, all sorts of new connections horizon by promoting imitative thinking. We learn to reproduce information made and organized by someone else. Imitative thinking presupposes the sufficiency of knowledge in its present state, and it preserves the separateness of different texts and different realities. But this separateness cannot be maintained except at the cost of a greater incoherence. Maybe the lecture in English today contradicted a point made yesterday in anthropology class, or perhaps an article you are asked to read describes an aspect of the social world in a way that you consider incomplete, biased, or flatly incorrect. On occasions like these, when we come face to face with the limitations of knowledge, imitative thinking cannot help us. Instead, we're obliged to think connectively, to think across texts, rather than thinking only from inside them. Connective thinking calls for another kind of interpretation. Instead of starting with one part of a text and using it as a window, to review the rest, we can use it as a window to begin a retrospective reading of another writer's work. No bubbles left in this drink. It's because of the ice. We might start again with the dawn passage, Latham quotes. All mankind is of one author and is one volume. Then, with this sentence, we could take a second look at Joseph Stiglitz's argument in rent-seeking and the making of an unequal society. At first glance, these two texts might appear as completely unrelated as two could be. The first deals with the uses that creative people make of work done by others, and the second with the growth of inequality in the United States. I've already read this. This is so great. I love myself. I have to cough. Oh yeah, okay, I didn't read this yet. Yada yada yada. Okay. These connections between Latham and Stiglitz certainly do not exhaust the possibilities, and we will find many more connections by rereading other passages. Eventually, as we work through these new connections, we might begin to discover that a larger point has begun to emerge, such as the inclusion. I cannot read, guys, oh my god. Such as the conclusion that free markets depend on high levels of equality. That's very true. An overarching point like this one seldom arises right away. For a nerve-wracking interval, the individual connections might appear disjointed, even contradictory. But then, suddenly, a larger view may present itself, like the pattern in a Persian carpet we unroll a few inches at a time. Beautiful metaphor. Great. I love this. Of course, some passages in Stiglitz might not connect in a fruitful way to Latham. Initially, a connection might look promising, but then we could discover that it leads to a dead end. It is possible to spend many frustrating hours following connections that go nowhere. But this is precisely what thinking involves, forging new connections where none exist now. Imitation means letting others do that work and sitting back to admire the results. Creativity means taking risks. Some of the risks we take will truly surprise us with their spectacular results, while others may prove quite disappointing. Both risk and failure, on occasion, are the price of creative reading, the price of discovery. And this book, or the passage of this book that I'm now supposed to read for my class, is trying to, teach universities a new way of teaching. So, innovation, basically. But anyways, this is about reading. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I just basically read the whole passage about education, and now I'm reading about creative reading. So, anyway, let's continue. Oh yeah, sorry. Some people are convinced that creativity cannot be taught at all, but we believe that it can be taught and learned by asking readers to make connections between texts that might appear unrelated at first glance. See, that's what I was getting at. Many of the questions you will find in this book seem to push hard in that direction. One question, for example, asks you to work out the connections between Charles Siebert's report of the fate of elephants in Africa and Barbara Fredrickson's discussion of the complex biology that underlies our experiences of love. Attempts by preservationists to rescue a species seem worlds away from the science behind our intimate lives, but we are asking you to undertake what all creativity involves, venturing beyond the familiar, the familiar, the familiar, the familiar, the familiar. Now there's a passage about perspective writing. Imitative thinking goes hand in hand with writing to tell, writing for the purpose of demonstrating a command of existing knowledge. In American schools, the classic example of writing to tell is the venerable book report. Like imitative thinking, writing to tell has its appropriate place. Connective thinking calls, however, for a different approach that might be described as perspective writing. Just as you can read perspectively, looking for a larger coherence behind all individual details, so you can write without knowing from the start where your ideas will lead. A good example of writing of this kind is The Mind's Eye by Oliver Sacks. Because Sacks is a neurologist, an Oxford-trained physician, as well as a professor of medicine. Damn, Oliver Sacks is pretty cool. We might have expected him to begin with some of the answers he has found in his 4 decades of research. Instead, he sets out with a question that sounds startling in its simplicity. To what extent are we shaped, predetermined by our brains, and to what extent do we shape our own brains? In attempting to think through this question, Sacks might have drawn on research by other specialists in fields like chemistry, genetics, and neuroanatomy. He might have taped electrodes to the heads of volunteers or studied their brains with an MRI machine. These are all certainly legitimate ways of responding to this question, but the sources Sacks prefers to use are the first-person narratives written by people who have gone blind, but then adapted to the loss of sight in a variety of creative ways. Perhaps the question that Sacks poses, do our brains shape us, or do we shape our brains, has followed him from the earliest years of his career as a scientist. Or perhaps he framed the question only after reading the books mentioned in his essays. But no matter how his project began, what seems certain is that these accounts called into doubt much that Sacks once had assumed about the development of the brain. On the one hand, his training led him to suppose that the tasks assigned to the regions of the brain were unalterable after childhood, but on the other hand, the accounts he read strongly suggested to him that our brains can rebuild themselves at a later age, that our brains are capable of major change throughout adult life. We cannot exactly know what inspired Sacks, but surely one powerful motive was the profound discontinuity between his old assumptions and the new evidence. Facing that discontinuity, Sacks was prepared to take a risk to put his old assumptions to the test. Bum, bum, bum. From time immemorial, teachers teach writing only when they clearly know. Okay. Sorry, sometimes I come across phrases in English that I've literally never heard before. From time immemorial. I didn't know that phrase, but I'm assuming it means like since the beginning of time. I don't know. From time immemorial, teachers of English have told their students to begin the task of writing only when they clearly know what they intend to say. True. But These instructions have always expressed more fantasy than truth. Typically, a thesis or argument will remain fairly vague until we've done a great deal of research and perspective writing. Discontinuities lead us to the search for a shared horizon, and from the shared horizon, new questions come. Then, provided we are willing to push far enough, a coherent thesis will begin to emerge. Not all at once in a grand sweep, but with one insight building on the next. At some point, these insights will cohere, the pattern in the carpet once again. Retrospectively, we can recognize the direction of our thoughts, a direction writing itself has revealed. We write, we stop and assess where our writing has gone. Only then are we ready to revise and to convey our discoveries to others in the form of a well-crafted presentation. Sorry guys, I had to stop recording for a second because my mom needed something from the living room, which I'm currently in, so that's not great, I'm sorry. Anyhow, let's continue. So I left off here. In order for an author like Sachs to become a source for our own writing, we need to start with the question that his work leaves unresolved, at least partially. If human brains are inherently as flexible as he suggests, then why do people generally seem so similar in their outlooks and behavior? Could it be that education, not biology, has made us all the same? Yes, it's conditioning. That's not hair conditioning, but it is conditioning. It's so fun to read this because, I basically made, while I was reading this earlier, the 20 pages that I read before this, I already made a lot of, notes, and basically just wrote down a whole lot of, thoughts that I had. And let me see if I can grab my notebook without too much noise. I really like this notebook, by the way. It has texture. Anyhow, so I made a lot of notes. Oops, sorry. Basically, I said, because I was reading something about the education system before, and now he's kind of circling back to that. So I wrote down, okay, so it was about the education system and also about this is gonna sound really dark, but about slavery and what people were conditioned to think that was right. And it had this quote the good of all depends on, the good of one person depends on the good of all. So I wrote down people are always being conditioned. People are always being conditioned into thinking certain things, and people rarely really think for themselves anymore. So just for an example, what Hitler did. I know this is gonna get so dark, and this is not really relaxing, but I just really like talking about these things. Not about Hitler, but you know what I'm saying. So basically, he convinced his home country, Germany and part of Austria. Well, he's not from Germany. Okay, he convinced German people and Austrian people that what he was doing was best for the country/countries, and that he had good motive for that. But he did that because he, the people of the countries were in distress. There was poverty, there was hunger. He really played into that. So that way he basically just kind of conditioned everyone into thinking that what he was doing was right because other people had fucked it up before him. But he was worse, But he basically packaged it in everyone was just like, great. Which is probably the most simple explanation you could give about the Holocaust, but okay. You also see that nowadays, right? Like, people normalize so many things while they really shouldn't be normal. Like, having a job that just basically forces you to burn out at a certain point is not normal. But people act like it's normal for no reason. And, having people starve to death in, like, war zones or something is not normal. Like, it infuriates me, and I wish that I could... Like, it really, like, infuriates me. And I wish that I could do more, than just, like, volunteering or something, or... Besides the point. But people are just, like, so conditioned into thinking that things are just a part of life. Like, oh, poverty. Like, oh, poverty is just a part of life. Or, people starving to death in certain parts of the world are, it's normal. And I guess that is what he is saying here. Like, it's literally what he's saying, If our brains are so adaptable, could it be that education and not biology has made us all the same? Right? People are just being so deeply conditioned into something, even like behavior-wise. It's so crazy. Anyways, off topic. Let me read. Let me drink first. Sorry, guys. There we go. If in the future we abolish formal schooling, would our mental lives become much less uniform than they appear to be now? I think so. Of course, each of us is free to conclude that our basic human nature will never change, regardless of alterations in our brains. And in that case, we might choose to brush aside the implications of Sachs's ideas, but these ideas might nudge us to rethink a number of our presuppositions. If events are capable of changing our brains, like going blind and adapting to that, then perhaps we are doing serious damage when we spend countless hours glued to glowing screens or tweeting about our last meal. Do we need instead to care for our mental health as thoughtfully as we care for our bodies through diet and exercise? Girls, I am not caring for my body through diet and exercise. Fuck that. Speaking of diet, wait. I bought a box of Celebrations because I fucking deserve it. I'm gonna eat one now. A thesis is not exactly an argument in the ordinary sense of the word. In everyday speech, the term argument suggests an adversarial stance. With great vehemence, we might argue for or against online education of the kind that Kathy Davidson describes. Making an argument tends to mean deciding ahead of time what you think, and then looking for support to back up your points. There is, however, another way. Instead of simply taking sides in an existing controversy, each of us can move beyond such debates, which are often hackneyed and overly simplistic, in order to say something genuinely new. To do so is to imagine ourselves in a different light, not as combatants, but as engaged participants in a conversation. Even if we read a writer with distaste, what matters most are the questions raised and not the answers given. Precisely because the search for a thesis starts with some degree of uncertainty, it demands a willingness on our part to suspend judgment and pursue new ideas wherever they might lead. However, remember that this pursuit does not require our complete assent or unwavering commitment. My dog looks like he's dead. He's not, he just always lies down very weirdly. Okay, I'm kind of done with the whole reading thing, so I'm going to start answering the questions. How does an approach that stresses possibility differ from one that privileges strict rules, fixed methods, and preordained answers? So, I'm going to write the following. An approach that stresses possibility differs from one that privileges strict rules in the following ways. assignment with possibility, you are always more open to new ways of thinking and connecting the dots between different subjects. If you approach a situation with possibility, you are more likely to think for yourself and not as these passages. What does it say? Imitative thinking, right? That's what it says. Imitative thinking. Yeah. I can tell. Whenever the proof the different thing of existing knowledge. To think imitatively. Like you to think for yourself and draw your own conclusions. And not as these passages say, think imitatively. If you approach something with strict rules, let's see what it says. Let's see what it asks again. Methods or preordained. You are less likely to say something new or even dare to think something new. Okay, I think that's a pretty good answer. Yeah, that's true. Possibilities come with risks, but they could also be seen as opportunities to learn from a situation. Oh, I just deleted the entire text, but I've got it back. But these risks could also be seen as opportunities to learn from a situation, something you will probably not encounter if you stick to what is problem or question. Problem. Hypothesis. Question. As mentioned in the text, uncertainty is accountable. Knowledge or information. It can be a very liberating experience to let go of what's a predisposition. I feel like that word predisposition, your inhibitions. Oh, that's a predisposition. Yeah, what a particular attitude. So predisposition. Give me to let go of predispositions and to connect outside of the box, for it could lead to new. I just had a revelation. I'm gonna save this, because if I delete it by accident, I'm gonna cry. Okay, I'll fine-tune that later. I think I just answered the question pretty well. What is the relation between uncertainty and the learning process? And that is the relation between uncertainty and the learning process. Doink. When people write the other mind is gonna yeah, okay, so that's doelhoop. Okay, doelhoop. Does it coincide? Okay, does this implied reader coincide with the normal image of the student? Oh. I don't know what that means. Does that implied reader coincide with the normal image of the student? Does it coincide with what we ordinarily think of the consumer? Okay, the implied reader of this book is open to learning. Is intersectional. I hope I spelled that right. My reader of this book, blood reader. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Box. Not. Okay, guys. I think this video has taken long enough. I hope that I was somehow able to relax you anyways. Yeah, this might have not been the most relaxing video of all time, but it is something I'm kind of passionate about. And I don't know, there are a lot of more like roleplay-ish videos coming up. Hopefully some collabs. If you're watching this, I think you know I'm talking about you. hopefully that. And, yeah, I don't know, like, just stay tuned. I am gonna be a little bit busy this coming week with, uni starting again. But I just hope to take you guys on this journey with me. So, because you guys are important to me. And thank you for being here. As always, you are amazing. And thanks for staying tuned. Love you.